Hello and welcome back to the 12th episode of the Tower Sports Advising Podcast. Today's special guest is Kevin Donati and Alex Carusotto, owner of Rip City Academy.
Thanks for having us, Zach.
No problem.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
It's going to be fun.
Glad to have you guys. All right. I want to start by diving into a little bit of both your playing careers. Kevin, we'll start with you.
Yeah, a little flashback. Let's hear it.
Little flashback, right? In high school, attended Pittsfield High School, and your senior season was named captain of the squad. Batted .453 with 29 hits and 21 RBIs. 3-time All-County Awards, 2-time All-Western Mass Awards, 2-time Berkshire North MVP, All-State Award in senior season. Tabbed to Under Armour preseason and All-American preseason in 2015. Played 4-year baseball career at the University of Albany. In 2016, in your freshman year, played in 49 games out of 53 as a true freshman for the Great Danes at shortstop. Hit .284 with 50 hits, 5 doubles, 1 triple, 18 RBIs, 18 stolen bases. Named American East Rookie of the Week on 322. In 2017, sophomore year, played in 52 games at shortstop, second base, and DH. .327 average, 64 hits, 13 doubles, 4 triples, 4 home runs, 34 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. Tabbed an 11-game hit streak throughout the season. Ranked 7 in the America East in batting, 6th in slugging and hits, tied for 8th in RBIs, tied for 3rd in triples, 4th in total bases, and tied for 8th in stolen bases. Named America East All-Conference second team. In 2018, junior year, appeared in the first game of the year, hitting a double in your only at-bat before a season-ending injury. 2019 senior year, appeared in 39 games in the infield during the season. .265 average, 31 hits, 5 doubles, 3 triples, 1 home run, 22 RBIs. Played 2 collegiate summer ball seasons with the Pittsfield Sun in the FCBL in 2016 and 2017. Hit .344 in both years. Pretty cool right there.
Yeah, man. That was fun summers for sure.
But yeah, a little sun delay action. All right, Alex, diving a little bit into your career. In high school, attended Taconic High School, 3-time All-North first-team selection, All-Western Mass selection as a senior, 1 gold medal in the Bay State Summer Games, led Taconic to back-to-back county championships in 2012 and 2013. Played 4-year baseball career at UMass Boston. In 2015 freshman year, 14 appearances, 19.1 innings pitched, 3-0 record, 2 saves, 16 Ks, .257 batting average against. Sophomore year in 2016, 9 appearances, 12.2 innings pitched, 0-1 record with 8 Ks. 2017 junior year, 5 appearances, 6 innings pitched, 3 Ks, 2-0 record, a .150 batting average against. 2018 senior year, 13 appearances, 14.2 innings pitched, 2-0 record, 16 Ks, and a .267 batting average against. During time at UMass Boston, was part of a number 1 national ranking, 2 LEC championships, a New England Regional Championship, and a D3 College World Series appearance. That was a lot.
That is.
Hey, do your homework.
I'll tell you what.
That was a lot.
I think I'm most proud about the last things you said right there. I think I'm most proud. I was the king of snaking wins. I mean, I was a reliever, so those wins don't really mean much. But I'd get on the mound and somehow we'd win the game. So that's how it goes, man.
That just means you did your job, though, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right, diving into the first question. What were some of the biggest challenges you guys faced as college athletes, and how did you overcome them?
You want me to lead it off? Yeah. So I'll 2 stand out. One being the injury. First game junior year, dislocated the shoulder and tore the labrum on a swing. And then the second one, which took even longer, I think, to recover, was the yips. The yips hit me hard my senior year of high school, and I didn't recover from that until the Rip City days, throwing BP every day. So that took some time. We can dive into that a little later.
I would say, you know, as a pitcher, right? Going from having a high school zone right into a college zone, huge difference. And I stress it to my guys all the time, like, you know, you're not getting that pitch 6 to 8 inches off. And sometimes you will, right? I mean, like college umpires aren't perfect, but for the most part, those zones tighten up. And I guess it got me to play a little tight. I was known as a strike thrower, and Like I went from throwing strikes and actually doing it, at 100% to having to take a little off. And that's what happened in my sophomore year. That's why you don't see a whole lot of great stats there. Just trying to compete in the zone. Like you got to be fearless. And I think for pitchers, like it can be really tough to make that transition once you step on the college mound. I would say that was a huge challenge for me.
I feel like in today's world, like we're seeing more and more of that though. And it's like the more we talk about velo and all of the things that essentially guys want to talk about, right? It's kids are chasing the numbers now, whereas when we played, it was you were chasing those numbers, but at the same time, you're also able to throw the white thing over the white thing, right? And I think that's in translation now gets lost.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. And obviously, guys, they're chasing velo. I mean, the biggest thing I look at with guys coming out of high school for pitchers is like, what's your K to walk ratio? Like, what's your strike percentage? And if your strike percentage isn't over at least 65 in a high school setting, and your K to walk isn't at least 3 to 1, we might have to take a deeper look at that. Especially if you want, depending on what level you want to play, obviously.
All right. Next question is, do you have a standout moment or game from your times at Albany or UMass Boston that really sticks with you?
Al, you want to lead this one off here?
I got to close the conference championship. That was pretty cool. We were up by a considerable amount of runs, but just my coach giving me that moment my senior year was pretty awesome. Struck the last dude out. That's always how you want to end a conference championship, and that one definitely resonates a little bit.
I got two that stand out. Well, first game in college, we were opening up against South Carolina. I'll never forget that. That was crazy. The other one was probably at UMass Lowell in the conference tournament. It was downpouring. We were playing the 1 seed Binghamton, and we knocked them off that day. We thought we had a shot. We thought we had a good shot that tournament, but we ended up going 2-0 after that. But those are definitely two moments that stand out.
It's just like you take those moments and it's like you'll never forget those. And it's you take kids nowadays and you're like, it doesn't matter where you go, you're gonna find those moments wherever you go. And I think the big value of those things is like you played D3 and you played D1, right? You both had moments. Like it's all what you build from one when you step on campus to what's already been built in that campus. And it's like do your research to essentially give yourself a fighting chance of like, all right, I'm going to go into these schools and I'm going to have success. It's like Albany was a great program, UMass Boston's a great program, right? But it's like they probably had prior success before you even got there. And again, you're a high school kid, you don't know that, you're not looking into those things. But it's like more and more nowadays, like kids running again. The transfer portal is a big thing, but they're running into those problems of, all right, I didn't do my research. I kind of just bought the name of like, all right, this guy's recruiting me and I took it and ran with it instead of like, all right, am I going to get playing time? Am I going to get a chance to ever play? Like, I think those are a lot of things that back in our day of like, you went to the school that you were going to play at. And now we're chasing names and we're chasing all these things that essentially aren't really good for the athlete.
I agree, 100%. I knew going into Albany that there was a senior shortstop there. My goal going into it, honestly, was to learn as much as I could from him. I knew I had to physically develop a little bit and all that stuff, but the stars kind of aligned. The dude fractured his wrist 3 weeks before season, and now it just worked out. Just worked out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I went into UMass Boston as an infielder, and the first day of fall tryouts, there was a JUCO All-American left-handed hitter who hit bombs playing short, and I was taking reps next to him, and I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm stepping on this field. And the other kid was from Hong Kong, and I was like, this kid's nasty too. I'm like, I'm not ever gonna touch the field. So I went over to coach on day 2, and I'm like, I can pitch if you want to see it. And then I struck out the 3-4-5 hitter from last year in a row, and he's like, son, you're gonna be our closer. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. We go full games in Western Mass. I don't know what that means. And it's like, hey, you'll just be a back end guy. Just be ready to come in when your name's called. I was like, okay. So I got used to that.
Awesome. All right, moving into the next question is, who are some of your mentors or coaches that had the biggest impact on you as you developed as a player?
Yeah, definitely my grandfather and my dad. Baseball has been in the family for generations, and It bit me for sure. The bug bit me, but yeah, I had them by my side every step of the way, and yeah, they definitely got a lot of reps. Got a lot of reps out of them.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up 3 houses down from Kev, so it was the same thing. I mean, it was Buddy, it was Mike Donati, and then, just some youth coaches I had along the way who just made me feel like I was a good baseball player. I think that's a huge thing, making you feel like this is something that you can actually go and pursue. That was a good feeling. I had a little league coach, Pat Carter Valley, made me feel like I was the best player on the field every time I stepped on it, and, that kinda sticks with you, and you think back to those moments, you're like, "Damn, that was a lot of fun playing baseball for those guys."
I think of my time in Pittsfield, and it's like you're freshman, your first year of summer ball, and it's like you're going out to the middle of Pittsfield. And again, I grew up in Central Mass, so it's like it's really not that far, but it's like a different world out there. And it's like, I mean, 4th of July, they do the parade in town and they do all these things, but it's like the culture of sports there is really like they bought into it. And you could tell just even playing for a college summer team of like how much it meant to that town.
Definitely.
And Getty, was it both of them?
Getty, yeah, TC was the head there, and then Getty was the assistant that year.
Nice. That's a fun group right
Baseball's
there.
Oh yeah,
definitely baseball's very deeply rooted in our community for sure.
Some would say we have a claim to inventing it here, but that that's a whole 'nother story. It's a whole 'nother
should
story.
have flipped the field, right?
Exactly.
All right, moving on to the next question is what inspired you guys to create Rip City Academy, and what was your vision when you started?
Yeah. I just knew whenever the playing career was over, I knew I was going to get into it. My grandfather, Buddy Pellerin, he owned Rip City Academy when Al and I were growing up, and it was a huge influence on our life. And I think we just wanted to give back everything that we learned. The game gives you so much. You meet so many people, you get to travel so many places, and we just felt obligated to give back to the next generation. And I was down in Maryland when I heard Pete Fotze was closing AP up and kind of moving on to the big leagues and all that stuff. So when we heard about that, we knew there was a need in Western Mass at the time, and we just jumped right in. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was easy to start up with the amount of talent that was here when we first started. That made everything like a seamless transition into that. Like obviously starting a business is not easy. We had so much to figure out. We were living together in a one-bedroom apartment, and it's just like um, we had to figure out every aspect of owning a business. Like the baseball comes easy, honestly. The baseball is the fun part. I always say that. Like when I'm in the cages, like I'm having an absolute blast. Everything outside of that is what that's where you find out who you really are. But we knew that there was a huge need for it in our town. Uh, kids were driving an hour 10 to go to AP in Palmer, like Drew DiMartino, guys like that. And that's just like and kids still do that all over the country, man. They're driving even further. I have a kid who drives an hour 45 to me right now from Vermont, just a grinder 3 days a week. So, like kids will, if they want it, they're going to go do it. And there was a huge need for it. So,
Awesome. Next question of how did your experience as a player shape your coaching style and business philosophy?
Man, I mean, like I said, you meet so many people along the way. And I think you learn a lot of, things you gravitate to as a player and you enjoy and you like, and then things that you don't. And I think you kind of take the combination of everything you learned with the do's and don'ts and kind of apply them to your guys. Yeah, that's my take on it. What do you got, Al?
yeah, I mean, you know, my junior year, we got to go to the College World Series, and if you look at my stats, I only had 6 inning pitch, only let up 1 run. Our relievers didn't let up a run for like 3 weeks straight. I'm not even kidding. So like, getting mound time, we had one of the best ERAs in the country, and being outside of that, like being a part of a good team is something to feel really good about, and culture is important. And I think that's the number one thing I took away is like making the players around you better, even if you're not even on the field. I think that's something that is a little lost on this generation. Like there's guys that stand out in my program who have done that over the years, who have really made the players around them better. But like that's the main takeaway from college for me is like, how can I make the people around me better? So that's the biggest thing.
I mean, the big word there for me is culture. Like you're going into, whether it's high school, whether it's college, whether it's pro ball, right? You're buying into the culture of that program. And it's like there's travel ball places that pop up everywhere now. Like it seems like every 20 miles there's one. But I feel like, especially when we played, the ones that are still around have the same culture of when we played. So it's like, how do you go off of what we were used to and translate it in today's world? It's not as easy as most people think it is,
Absolutely.
because the parents of today's world aren't going to listen to us like our parents would listen to the coach when we were kids, right? Because our parents would be the ones like, dude, you're doing it, you're going, there's no excuses. I don't care if you're over 15.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But I think that's like the biggest part of travel baseball now. And it's like, I've said it on other pods too. It's like kids aren't playing Little League Baseball anymore. Kids aren't playing Cal Ripken or whatever's in that town. And it's like, I think back to my days of baseball, however long they were. It's like the last time probably I had actual fun on a field was like 12U Little League. Because after that, like you're moving to the big field and it becomes real. And that's when your best friends stop playing, kids go play lacrosse, kids go play soccer, whatever it may be. But it's like when 12 to 13, that summer to that fall is the most important time, because that's the separator. Doesn't matter if you're the biggest kid on the small field. That doesn't mean you're going to be the best kid on the big field. And I think a lot of parents don't see the vision in that in today's world as much as they did before, where you could be the worst kid on the little field, but you can figure it out in a year and be just as good as those kids were now. Like, there's no problem with it, but they just lose. They want it now, now, now. And I'm like, takes development. Like, that's the reason we do this. It's not because, hey, just let's throw kids on the field and hopefully we win a game. Like, no, there's a reason there's two different teams at each level or whatever it may be. And we want every kid on the second team to be on the first team. And then we want the kids on the first team to have to fight to keep their spot. But it's always not going to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, you really find out. I think the year you find out what a player is like 15U, like I call it like 12, 13, 14U. I call it the puberty games. You know what I mean? Like whoever hit puberty first is going to win. In like 90% of those games. Now, obviously, you've got, you know, we had a team that was a little undersized in the 13U level last year, and like, dude, they would compete, man. Like, they would play the game the right way. And I know when all those kids grow up, that's going to be a really strong team because they're fundamentally sound. They know the game of baseball, and like that's as they get older, man, like that's what it's gonna be, dude. And those are the best teams. Like Kevin and I, we'll say it right. Like Little League, Babe Ruth, Legion. Those are the best teams we were ever on. We were never like blowing it by people on the mound or anything like that. But we just played the game of baseball and we played it hard. And you learn in those leagues that you're talking about how to do that, right? Like rec ball, you don't like, or yeah, I would say like tourney ball. Depending on what team you're on, man, you don't learn to do that. Like a lot of guys play for themselves, and it's kind of it sucks. And that's kind of like also the beauty of 13 and 14U baseball is they're still playing for something that doesn't have to do with recruiting. Like they just want to win. Uh, and like 17U ball, it's kind of all about you, in your own head. Unfortunately.
My grandpa always talked about it being a ladder, the baseball journey, and every step you take, people fall off the ladder. It's a lot of hard work goes into it for sure, as we all know.
I mean, I was talking to a parent the other day, and we were looking at some team that got blown out. Like it was like 20-0 and like 15-0. And I was like, I wish there was more of those games. And I mean that in like the nicest way, but I feel like kids nowadays learn more from that. Like you just got embarrassed on a field. But the parents look at it as it's not, or how do we fix it? Like, no, it takes time. It doesn't matter if you're 9 or you're 17. Like, you're still going to go play games at 17 years old in a college showcase and lose by 10. It's just going to happen. It's the game of baseball.
Especially from like being in a small community, a lot of our guys are used to playing, Little League All Stars, Babe Ruth All Stars, all this stuff, and they just roll through teams. And our goal when we first started was to put them playing in the age group above their actual age group to be like, hey, guys, there's really good ball players out here. Like this is what it looks like at the next level. Let's get a taste of it in the fall, right? Playing it up, and then in the off season, use that as motivation to work towards that skill set.
Yeah, I mean our 17U, the current one, was our first ever. They were technically a 14U team, but all those kids were 13. And I'll never forget it, dude. They go to their first ever tournament down in Staten Island. We all know where it is. And they face a Wake Forest commit throwing 85, 86 from the left side with a splitter. And they were 13 years old. A couple of them were 12, hadn't turned 13 yet. Maury Freed being one of them. Now he's a huge kid. He didn't look 12 back then either, but they got absolutely carved. It was 5-star national or something. They got carved. It was 16-0 in 2 innings. It was over. I'm like, yeah, how are you going to react when you get punched in the mouth, dude? Like, they learned more from that season. The next year they played actual 14U ball as 14-year-olds, and they won more games than they lost. Pretty simple. Oh, and they competed with teams like that. Now that they're 17, like there's going to be a lot of college guys on that team because they stuck with it, dude. They stuck it out and they grinded it out, and they know how good players are around the country and how good they have to be.
One of the podcasts, my buddy coaches at Augusta, and he's like, you have to have a different trait up here to go down there. And it's just the same thing down there to come up here. And it's like the reason kids are the way they are now is because of that development piece, right? Like you don't play organized baseball as a kid anymore. You go right to travel at, let's say, some places you can go at 8. So it's like all you're focused on is development. Well, if you're focused on the development, it gets really easy as you get older. But if you stop showing up to practices, you stop coming to games because you got this or that, it's like it's a never ending cycle. But I'm like, you're missing the key development part. And it's like then you run into the parents of the kids that jump from program to program to program each year. And it's like you're just starting over. Everybody at the end of the day teaches the same thing and just says it a different way, right? Yes, there are people that have a little bit more insight than others. But like your jump from 12 to 13 probably isn't worth it, especially if you're going to the big field in the fall, to just start over at a different program.
Everything different.
From ground zero.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, we don't have 12U ball. So it's always ground zero for us. We're teaching the game, like it's 13U baseball. The fall is so important. Like we get out on the field as much as we can, more than in the summer, honestly. We get out on the field like 3 times a week if we can, and then weekends we have games. And that practice time in the fall could not be more important for these kids. I mean, it's everything. You could name any part of the big field, man. It's everything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all of it. Because a lot of our guys don't play 50-70 either. So, like, they don't even know how to pick off or hold runners or steal or anything. Like, it's like every aspect of the game, you know? So they're just playing catch up, to be completely honest.
All right, moving on to the next question. I always like to throw a question out here for coaches that grew up in the Northeast. What do you think the hardest part about your recruitment was growing up in the Northeast?
Yeah, the hardest part of being in the Northeast, I mean, it's just the weather. I'm sure I've been watching your podcast. It's a very similar answer, but being out in California now, these guys are starting in January and they can stay on the field pretty much 12 months out of the year, where we're a little more limited on field time. That's a challenge. However, when we were coming up, I used to kind of do a mental, I would twist it a little bit, right? Because we would do a lot of our training indoors. And with that, you're working in a smaller space and you can typically get more reps in. So I used to kind of twist that mentally a little bit. I know a lot of guys kind of get down because they're from the Northeast, but I used to use that as a positive and just try to get as many reps as possible with what we had.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, same thing with that, and obviously, when we were playing, we had less resources, so I think that's, the Northeast, you're not only are you limited by the weather and in some cases where coaches can get out and see you, but, we definitely there's more resources now than they were. I think there's plenty of resources to do what you need to do, but you need to utilize those. And if you don't, you're doing it all on your own and good luck, man. That's tough. I did it on my own. I just sent out emails, it was pretty simple. I just sent out emails, Kev did the same thing. We just sent out emails to coaches. It was like fishing like this. We're like, all right, who's going to bite? It's pretty simple.
If anyone's watching, please get video and send it to coaches with your schedule. If they're interested, they'll message you back. If they're not, They won't.
Sometimes they'll message you back and they'll still show up. I've seen that more times than not. I have.
Well, I think that piece right there, it's like today's world is like, all right, take video, right? And it's, I mean, we can dive into this deeper and later on, but it's all right, take video. But how many parents are taking videos from 17 stands behind me and you look like an ant on the screen? I go, you're not helping your kid in the recruiting process. You're not. Like that they don't even want to see where the ball went. They want to see the kid swing or the kid on the mound throwing, they want to see his mechanics. It's like the simple thing you can do to help your kid is one, help your kid set up a Twitter, and two, learn how to take video. That's it.
And
That's half the battle.
you don't have to rewrite the wheel. It's all over the place. You can go and scroll through and you'll find something that's good and try to duplicate it, you know?
Yeah, if you like a video, don't you think other people would like a video if you did the same thing? I think the best recruiting profiles I see are on Twitter. Their pinned tweet is like their best stuff, and they also have a YouTube of like all their highlights with just one video half the time. They don't retweet anyone else, and it's all just their own video. It's just a coach can go on and just scroll through, and it's like, oh, another barrel, triple, homer. It's like that's what I see.
It's got to be clean and cut. Like,
Yeah,
yes, you can, but like also coaches do want to see your teammates because you can also help somebody else in the long run, right? But it's like keep it to where it's clean and cut. You have your personal Twitter for a reason and you have your baseball Twitter for another reason. So don't use your baseball Twitter for your personal one. It's
absolutely.
really easy to set up another account.
You say the same thing to coaches. That's for sure. You could say the same thing to coaches.
All right, moving on into recruiting. What advice do you have for high school players trying to get recruited to play college baseball?
Making video. I think video's so big. I mean, listen, coaches are so busy. They can't go to every game, you know, and um what better than for them to be on the bus rolling through? They're gonna see it, right? You got a video, whether it's, you know, get your BP rounds, get your game footage. If you go to a showcase, you know, video the showcase, show you're running a 60, show the arm, all that good stuff. Video, posting it. Uh, Something we recommend to our guys is following the schools they're interested in. Typically, that will post up on their feed. They'll click on you, and boom, there's your video.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to get recruited in this day and age, you got to be physical. You know, we didn't have as much access to the weight room when we were growing up. You know, if you're not getting physical, it's I mean, that's the easiest thing to control, in my opinion, is getting strong. You don't have to be an athlete to get strong. That's the biggest thing. You really don't. And I think, you know, baseball aside, dude, if like, have you seen how big college players are now? We got like 12 Zach Towers on every roster, man. It's absurd. You know, it's like everyone's 24 years old, dude. If you're 18, 160 pounds, 5'10, my bad, Kev. I didn't mean that.
Okay.
Hey, Kev was a gamer though. Kev was a gamer, right? Like if you're doing that, like you better be absolutely nasty. That's all I gotta say, and you better be fast as hell. But getting physical, man, it's that's pretty simple, I think.
I think that separates kids more than anything now too. It's like the kids that are in the weight room. But it's also with that being said too, it's like the kids that don't need to be in the weight room as much, like that's another part of it too, of like you're getting too big.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of kids in that realm now too, of like you're already 6'4", 245, and you're not the fastest runner. Like, hey, maybe let's work on running a little bit. Because that could be the difference between a Division II and a Division I school for you. Because you might have every other tool.
Checking the boxes. Like if you already checked the box of being strong, go check another box. Get fast. You know what I mean? Or throw harder or whatever it is. You know, any tool. You already checked the box.
You definitely got to understand yourself as a player and a person. I think our strength coach at Albany broke it down great, where it's like you got your skills that you got to work on, you got the weight room that you got to work on. Some guys would be hammering the weight room, but they stink at the skills, and it's like, what are we doing? You know, it's like why are you in here 6 days a week when you can't, you know, you can't put a bunt down where you want to, or you know, do a hit and run. You can't do these things, you know. It's like work on the skills, man. The weight room's not helping you get on the field right now, so it's definitely understanding yourself and that self assessment.
I'll say it, man. Like, I wish I did more like throwing program activity, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, man. Anything to strength, like strength, arm speed, anything. I thought that deadlifting 500 pounds was going to help me throw harder. Like, you got to throw hard consistently to gain velocity. You have to actually throw a baseball to throw harder, and you have to go sprint if you want to get faster. Now, deadlifting 500 pounds is going to help you, increase your capacity to do those things. But if you don't go and do them, they're never going to happen. You don't train bat speed. Like, you have to train bat speed to have bat speed. It's all simple. If you want to get strong, you pick up heavy shit. I mean, it's pretty simple. When you talk about, we've always, that's actually one of our favorite quotes. But that's what it is, man. Like, you got to actually train the skill that you want to do.
And then you have the flip side where you got the kid who can barrel everything, but it's little bleeders in the outfield. It's like, dude, you get strong, those are doubles, triples, homers,
Oh, it's like for that kid, put the bat away for 3 weeks and go hit the weight room and see what
Yeah,
happens.
dude. Grind
And
it
I
out.
think
So I'm actually really curious what you think here. You got a kid who weighs, let's say they're like sophomore, junior year. They're like 140 pounds, superior athlete. They struggle to keep weight on, but they're not in the weight room all the time. But they also play basketball in the weight.
you want my honest answer?
Yeah.
I think about back to when we played.
If you want to be a baseball player, this is like if you're a baseball guy for sure.
Right. But I think back to I'll say from when we played, right? Most of us were 3-sport athletes. Like, you played in high school, you played football, basketball, baseball, or whatever it is, right? But I think our generation now, not everybody, but as a whole, is losing that sight of, like, football practice ended for me. My dad was waiting at the field to hit me 100 ground balls and take 50 swing or whatever it is, right? I think they think that all right, you're 140 pounds, great. Okay. Well, in my eyes, right, we're a 140-pound kid that could barrel up the ball. Again, I have to see him play in a game, but most likely that's a JUCO kid in today's current world, right? That doesn't mean you can never get out of that, but they're going to take the kid that's 165 pounds, maybe has an inch or two on you, can barrel up the ball the same as you. So what part are you lacking, right? It's not quit basketball. It's what are you doing after basketball? Because you take it as, once you get to college, right, you're going to have to go to practice. You're going to have to go to study hall. You're going to have to go to lifting. You're going to have to go to a nutritionist if the school has it. You're going to have to go to all these things anyway. So why not build your schedule in high school as it already is? So I'm sure you guys have kids that wake up in the morning and lift, then go to school, then go to basketball practice, and then come to your facility, right? So you're already building that schedule of what it's going to be like, not to a T, but close to what it's going to be like in college, depending on where you go and what the rules apply. So if you're not putting on 20, 25 pounds, then it's like, for me to say that to a kid, I never want to be the guy that's, hey, you got to put on 20 pounds. But like, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And I think parents don't want to hear that. But I'm like, all right, if you're a high school coach and you have a kid that's 140 pounds and college, let's just say Williams, MCLA, and give me another one. We'll use UMass Boston, right? Come watch him play in a game. All three of them say a different thing, right? Of UMass Boston could say, we really like him, we want him to put some weight on. MCLA could love him. Williams could say, hey, we like him, grades aren't where we need to be with him. Okay, so you take Williams out of the equation. What if UMass Boston said, we'll take you right now if you could put 25 pounds on in 3 months? Again, is that doable and healthy for the kid? I don't know. Okay, that's not my job. But are you going to go put 25 pounds on and go to UMass Boston? Because most kids that want to play college baseball are going to do that or find a way to do that. And I think it's kids shed the light now of, like, somebody needs them to tell them to do it. Instead of like, oh, I look at my friends. I'm 140 pounds. Alex, you're 165. Kevin, you're 170. Wouldn't you want to be in that realm if you're already a better athlete than they are?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely they gotta want it, man. They gotta want it.
Yeah, I mean, kids are busier than they've ever been in like a weird way. But like, I've seen guys, like you said, I've seen guys go get their lift in, go to school, go to basketball practice, and then hit with us at 8 o'clock at night. And if you're not willing to do that, well, then you're not willing to work as hard as the guy before you. And that guy went on to play D1 baseball. I think it's
Well,
pretty simple.
I take it this way, right? And I don't know the kid that you guys coach. I don't know his name. That posts all the videos and TikTok and everything. What's his name? But like again, I have no idea who he is. I've seen some of his stuff, but it's like, all right, that kid wakes up. He clearly has to take video of himself doing all these things. So it's like, as much as this world's caught on the video part of it, right? At least the kid is doing it, and he's holding himself accountable.
Absolutely. He'll say if he didn't do it. He said, hey, had a lazy day today. He'll say he didn't work that hard.
Try to find a 14 and 15-year-old kid that will put that on wherever. I don't even know where else he posts his stuff, right? But it's like the accountability for him is right there, and he posts it every single day. Now, do you have to post every single day? Probably not. But like for him, maybe it holds him accountable.
Absolutely. And I think it also shows it's great for other kids to see that. I think it's been a great motivator for other kids at our facility to see it. You got a kid who's 15 taking ice baths in the morning, and getting speed work in before school. I mean, some kids don't even get that much work in a day. Like that.
Right.
That's
But like, I think the coolest part to me is obviously I know you guys and I know your facility. Like the kids at the facility are so happy to be in those videos because it's like, all right, maybe he's holding them accountable.
For sure. I mean, it's motivating, right? Like we're all competitive guys. Anytime we step foot somewhere in a sports setting, we're trying to be the best, So I think the other guys in the facility that are ultra competitive, I think it rubs them and they want to try to beat them out, which is great. That's part of the culture that we've been talking about and trying to make people around you better. I think Francis just smokes it.
He's just that much further ahead of like his generation though. And it's not like saying the kid wants to be an influencer in this. No, he's just holding himself accountable.
Be a baseball player.
All right. Moving on to the next question is, what are some misconceptions families and players have about getting recruited for college baseball?
Misconceptions.
A couple weeks. You want to think about it, Cap?
Yeah, go for it.
That all of your stats matter. Like your high school stats, your like you got dads doing game changer, changing errors into hits or hits, and their son's playing defense and they change it into a hit and it was an error. That I think that's a big misconception that all those stats matter. Like your 13U, 14U stats matter. They don't. I think that's a big thing. Like you could hit 300 and barrel a ton of baseballs and it's slug more than a dude hitting 450 who just gets on base and doesn't even steal. You know what I mean? Like there's value to things, right? Like and the tools are what you gotta have the tools, man. Like it's not all about just the stats. I think people get wrapped up in it.
I think, let me cut you off for a second there. I think the part of it that people don't realize, and again, perfect game and all those things are so mainstream now compared. I mean, they were there when we played, but it wasn't like, oh, you're playing perfect game this weekend, this weekend, this weekend, whatever it is, right? I think for the top 100 players in the country, the stats matter because your trajectory of what school you're going to end up at, again, at 13 and 14, you might not end up at the school you thought when you were 13 and 14, but you're going to all these things, so they do matter. But in the grand scheme of things, I think you're right. It's baseball, dude. Go play the game. If you went 0 for 8 on a weekend, it's okay.
I think people really need to understand how good you have to truly be in order to reach whatever your goal is. So, and there's a timeline to this too. Usually, right? Occasionally you'll have a guy committing to, call it Vanderbilt, his, later in a timeline than normal, but there's typically a certain time period where that's taking place, right? So it's really understanding where you are now and where you're trying to go and how much time you have in order to reach that goal and understanding what you need to do in order to reach that goal. I think that's a huge thing. I think A lot of people, they want to go play D1 ball at UMass Amherst, and they don't know what it takes in order to play there or what it looks like. So I think understanding that early on really helps versus joining a program your sophomore, junior year and scrambling to try to make it happen.
Yeah, like just to hit on that, right? Like you look at UMass Amherst record, and you're as an outsider, right? You're like, oh, they don't have a good record. I could play there. Have you seen the guys who play there? D1 baseball is as good as it's ever been, bro. Like pretty simple. If you think you're good enough to play there, man, you got to show me because regardless of record, man, everyone's a baller, dude. Everyone's a baller. If you're starting on a college baseball team, you are a stud. In today's age, you are a stud.
I mean, think about it, right? December 1st, there'll be 1,500 plus kids in the portal just from D1 alone. So it's crazy, right? But it's like you think about back when we played of how many, again, there wasn't JV teams. I mean, there were some, but like there was barely any. So it's like back when we played, what we carried, depending on the school, is between 35 and 45, right? Depending where you were. So how many, if you take the last 10 of every single team, how many of those guys actually played? Or forget that part, actually stuck it out?
Not many, man.
Not many. So it's like you're limiting rosters to 34 or 32, right? Is that any different? I think the part that people are going to get upset about is you go down your fall of your sophomore year at a D1 school, you're probably out. You're going to have to go to either a JUCO for your sophomore year or a D3 or a D2 to figure out how to get back because they're going to need every guy at that point.
We graduated 5 seniors from a class of 15, freshman class of 15 guys. And we were the winningest group in UMass Boston history until the group just below us. They won more games than us. It's like, but they had 9 guys stick it all the way out. That's a pretty good number to stay at a school the whole time. Yeah, we had guys leave. We got it, but they were never like juniors or seniors. It was always freshmen at our level. It was always freshmen. Now,
Just kids,
where you want.
but their kids are like, they don't think it's what it is, right? They thought it was all rainbows and butterflies, right? Then you have the kids that college isn't for them. Like that's always going to happen, right? You're always going to have kids that go away to college and this isn't for me. Nothing against those kids, but like if you're going to waste all that money for 4 years just to be like, it's college, whatever, like go do something with your life. I mean, more schools have trades and all those things now that you can go to school and do that. So it's, what are you wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars just to go to college?
Did you guys have any one and dones on your team, like guys who absolutely tore it up, and then you realized that they didn't? Like we had a few guys who hit 400 and were all conference, and then they had a 0.0 GPA and just left. They're like, I'm going to the Army. That might be a D3 thing. I don't know.
No, I've heard that before. I don't think I had any that I can think of. I don't think I had anyone on the team though. I've heard multiple people do that though.
Crazy waste of money for school. Crazy waste of money just to play baseball.
All right, next question is, what role does a facility like yours help athletes get noticed by college programs?
Take it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is to serve as like a guiding hand from a young age. Like typically I would say like 8th grade on, we try to really like draw it out for them. Like, hey, this is what the next 4 years are going to look like in high school. These are the things we need to be taking care of. And we talk a lot about grades. Like I'll sit down with families. We'll have typically sophomore or junior year, depending on like the level that they're going to play at. If they're gonna be a heavily recruited guy, it's usually sophomore year, and we'll sit down and we'll kind of pick it out conference by conference. What schools do you think you can play at? Like we have a list we like to go through. It's like 5 reach schools, 10 schools you think you can play at right now, and then 5 schools that are like backup schools. And I like to see what they write down before any input is given, just to kind of see where their head is at. It's usually a little bit more ambitious than not. When we first started, kids were really ambitious. And then I think now that the kids coming up have seen these super talented kids stick around the Northeast and play Division I baseball, they're like, oh, okay, all right, maybe I can't play at LSU. Okay, that makes sense. And it's about like educating the parents more than anything on how the process works. I think that's a huge part of it. And it's good to sit down as a group of people and have honest conversations, in order to come to a conclusion of where we feel like we should be targeting our emails, our text messages, everything. Like everything that we send out, where do we need to target it? What time frame? You should be sending stuff out before every tournament you go to. I'm gonna be here, yeah, like every single. It should be a schedule for the season, your high school season. It should be a schedule before your tournament season, and then before each tournament. Like if you're a pitcher, hey, I'm throwing on this day and this day. I have a ton of interest in your school. These are my current metrics. Here's some video. Come and watch me play. And like
But
most.
I think there too, right? Like Twitter, right? Keep that organized. And it's like, I hate to say it, but like there are coaches that will never even look at their email. Like, which is fine, but they'll look at your Twitter all day and send you a message and say, "Hey, I'll be at, let's say, the NEBC complex on Saturday and you guys are playing at 4, I'll be there."
Yep.
Or whatever it may be. And I think it goes back to like putting your eggs in that one basket. All right, build that timeline, right? And it's like the big thing that I like about Twitter too is you take the video, let's say you play in the Boston Open. Prospect Select pretty much records everything. You can't lie. If you're out there and you're saying, I mean, I think the biggest misconception for me is like when kid puts like, I got a hit off of a George Mason commit. Like nobody cares about that part. Like they want to see your swing, but like they're going to find that out on their own if they go and look who you played against and where it says he committed to. Like avoid that part. But it's like, all right, post the clip. You got a hit. Great. The kid was throwing 90-91. Sure. Awesome. You got a barrel. You hit a double in the gap. Great. I'm sure a college coach would love to watch that. But they could care less if you got a hit off of George Mason commit or a UConn or whatever it is. Like just leave that part out.
I think the two things that we take pride on, and I'll definitely hit them, is just our transparency with the kid and the family. We don't want to waste their time, our time, any of the coaches' time that they're reaching out to. So being very transparent of, realistic goals and expectations, and then also helping them get as a player from point A to point B. This is where you are now. This is where we want to be, and try to build out something that's going to help them get there.
I mean, I think transparency is the best thing for a kid in today's world. As much as they won't like it, like
I'm not gonna name names, but just a quick little story. One of our guys had a offer to a school, first offer. Great school, great program, but just wasn't the fit for the kid. And this kid played on other programs outside of Rip City when he could, and the coach that he was playing for was trying to push him to recruit to jump on that first school, and then like it wasn't a fit for him, dude. Like he just wanted to blast him out on social media for to grow his program and all this stuff, and we're like, that's not cool, man. That's not cool. These kids are 16, 17 years old making a decision that's going to impact the rest of their life. Like,
It
you got to
also
know
shows that
really
he
wants it.
never truly had a relationship with the kid anyways. Like, you would have known that he didn't wanna go to that school if you knew who he was and his family, and he was just trying to push him to go somewhere where he would've I don't he probably he coulda had success there. I don't know, absolutely, but it wasn't the fit. It wasn't the fit.
but it goes back to that, right? And again, I'm not saying people don't know people and whatever, like people lie about certain things, but it's like if you're pushing it one to put out to promote your program, all right, you already look like a scumbag anyway, right? But at the same time, again, you guys might know the full story, but we don't know the full connection. What if that guy knows that guy? Again, I don't know the story, I don't know the kid, I don't know the coaches, right? But it's like there's so many programs and there's so many different coaches involved essentially in the one pod of a kid now. It's like you don't know the relationships they have. And it's like you're trying to respect the kid. And I again, if I was that kid's parents, I'm appreciating everything you're doing, right? But you're never gonna find out the full story on the other end of what that guy is telling that kid. So it's like you're sitting here and you're trying to throw darts at the wall and hopefully one sticks. Like either the parents are gonna listen to you or they're gonna listen to that kid. That's the world we live in, right?
It's true. That you're gonna listen to who you want. And as we're gonna be going into our 6th year, 7th year next. I mean, that's crazy to think about, but I think you kind of seen it all. And the people who really really listen and they understand the process thoroughly, we don't have any outside conversations because it's all understood. There's no conversation to have. We know we're on the same page all the time, and it's easy. And yes, it's easier when you're more talented. I'm going to say that 100%. It's easier when you have more talent to work with. Uh, the conversations can be tough at times when you're like that. You're like a mass hack. Like it's hard to know where you fall when you fall into those categories. Sometimes it's hard to know where your talent's at, and most of the time you're a late bloomer in that case, but just sticking with that process and trusting that, like, if we take care of what we need to, we're gonna have a chance to play college baseball. I think that's the number one. I mean, that's the goal of all this, right? Is to actually play innings on a field for a college program. It's not to go to a college, it's to play.
You don't go to college just to sit on the bench.
I've done it.
If you But it's like you played though. But at the same time, it's like I think there are some kids in the world now that are okay and this is why I think the D1 roster cuts are great. Because there are kids that will just go, oh, I'm going to blah, 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 right? But I'm going to sit on the bench for 4 years and maybe log 6 innings for 4 years. Like, I think it's getting away from that, which in my eyes is good for the sport. Because I'm sick of the kids that are chasing a D1 roster spot, we'll call it, that could go play Division 2 for 4 years and light it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, you got kids who really love the game of baseball too. Like, we've had a lot of talented two ways come through, but not talented enough to play both position above the Division 3 level. But they could start on the mound and play a position at the D3 level, but they choose to just not play at the D2.
Fine. Go play. And I think I forgot who I talked to on one of the pods. They're like, we're recruiting 2A guys. Make them give me a chance until I prove I can't do it anymore. Because one of those might get you into the school. You might really suck at shortstop, but they might give you a chance. And you might be a great pitcher. What should parents know about supporting their kids in the recruiting process?
Al, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a very easy process, or it can be a tough, like, 2.5-year process sometimes. And sometimes they might go to college, and if they hop in the transfer portal, guess what? They're back in the recruiting process. So it may not be over, but just always supporting them and making sure they understand every decision they're making and being honest with them. I think, like, I mean, just from dropping them off at practice and having food on the table like that, that's just being a parent in general. But, like, these kids, their lives are, I mean, they're on the move. They're on the move, man, and, like, just keeping them humble and holding them accountable with their grades too. Please don't forget that. That's the number one, man. Like, hold your kids accountable in every aspect of what they're doing in their life too. Like, don't just let them just go do whatever they want on the weekends either, man. Like, hold your kids accountable. That's the best support you can give them, to be honest.
Yeah. And you're definitely, you're shaping your kids as they're coming up to be people in society, right? So it's like making sure, you're doing your best to shape these guys and represent the parent, right? They're representing you out there, they're representing their organization they're with, the school or what have you. Like, you want to be a good kid too, right? So that's huge.
I mean, I love when people say it's about the front, like the name on the front of the thing. But like, I think more and more in my head, and like the more and more I've thought about that part, it's also about the name on the back, and not in the field of baseball, but it's like you look at the kids you've grown up with and like what they're doing with their life, right? And like how their parents raised them. And it's like I joke about it all the time. I'm like, hold the door for the old lady, right? But it's like there are kids in this generation you have to tell to do that. And it's like we want the kids that'll hold the door for the old lady because you're never going to have to think twice about putting that kid in the 6th inning with the game on the line because that guy is doing it the right way. As dumb as it sounds, that's what it is.
Yeah, you want good kids on your team. They're representing you out there, But we definitely do our best if anything does pop up that is out of character. then we do our best to let them know and learn from it.
You're right about that, though. Kids do need to be told to do things. And I guess we just learned at a younger age. I mean, the guy you had on the podcast, Chad Shade, I mean, he was on every single team Kevin and I played on. A lot of respect in that group, man. A lot of respect from those kids. I don't remember when we learned it, but from the earliest age I can remember, it was just a group that was always playing for the name on the front, and the name on the back told you, yeah, that's a good kid right there, and that's just exactly what you go to, man.
It's probably we knew we wouldn't get away with it though, right? Like Al knew if he messed up, like if he did something disrespectful, he wouldn't want to go home that night. His mom would have been what?
Yeah, my mom, dude. Like, I mean, I think the problem is, and no, this starts in the classroom though. This is not a coach thing. Parents do not hold their kids accountable when it comes to disrespecting teachers nowadays. They think the teacher's always wrong. And maybe coaches are on like, the backside of that, right? The coach is always wrong. Dude, I had a ton of respect for my teachers. And if I was goofing off, I promise you it was me. It was not the teacher's fault. I think teachers don't get enough credit nowadays. And kids are just like parents always take their kids' side. And I think that's one of the most disgusting things about society nowadays. Like they always take their kid's side. It's so bad. Yeah, I promise.
I think about us though. Like our parents would take our side, but at the same time, they're probably like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
Yeah. Don't be an idiot.
Like it is just a certain line. You don't cross it. Just don't cross the line. Like we all goofed off at one point, but just keep it on this side of the line. Don't go over there.
Yeah.
All right, moving on into player development. What's the balance between skill development and exposure when it comes to preparing for college baseball?
I mean, like, if you're not good enough, you're not going to get on the field there. So it's like it all starts with that. You got to be, your skills need to be at a certain level in order to be on the roster at a certain place. It's just what the schools look for, right? Like I don't know what UMass Boston looked for, but when I was at Albany, like righty high 80s, low 90s, lefties mid 80s, high 80s.
Right? Tony. No, I mean that's what it is, and obviously Halo wise, things seem to be trending upward, but like I disagree. Like I never threw gas, and like I mean we made to the College World Series with one dude throwing over 90. Now other teams had dudes throwing over 90, but they couldn't get outs. And I think like it's kind of like I don't mean to call out any conferences in general, but like I've had a lot in the past, like the NESCAC would be like, oh, he doesn't throw 85. Like I have 3 recruits coming next week who throw 87. I was like, I just looked at your ERA, your team ERA, it's a 7. You guys have you have 150 walks to 200 Ks this year. We may need to reevaluate what we're looking at, honestly. And I think that's something that's kind of lost on it. And it goes back to like strike throwing in general, but like, yeah, you do have to hit a certain number to get the coach to come watch you play, but how you pitch when you do that, I mean, it's the same thing as when you're doing the inner squads in the winter, dude. Like how you pitch in those inner squads or how you compete in those inner squads is going to dictate whether you step on the field in the spring.
But you're not going to get even to that point unless, you got certain tools, right?
I think the part there is like a lot of people in misconception, obviously, with the NESCAC is the NESCAC is probably the only D3 conference that is recruiting when the D1s are recruiting. And people do not realize that. And you also got to realize those schools also have limited like classes that they can bring in. Parents are like, well, I want to go there. Well, everybody wants to go to Williams, dude. It's a great school, like for you guys in your area, right? It's a great school. It's hard to get into. And the baseball is pretty decent, right? But that's also because their recruiting period is open from that first day of your junior year until the end of it when the D3s are finishing their stuff. So if you're not getting recruited at an earlier spot in those D3s to those smart schools, first of all, you got to have the grades. Like it goes back to what you said, right? But they're open the same time as D1. So if you want to go to an SCAC school and it's September of your senior year, yeah, you might be able to go still, but you're probably the bottom of the barrel for them. And that doesn't mean you got passed or you didn't get better or whatever it is, but like they can recruit all year. So they're already picked there. If they got 5 right-handed pitchers coming in, they already picked the 5 they wanted or whatever it may be.
I got a question for you. How has it been for you guys I think we've been really fortunate having a lot of kids who have extremely high GPAs, particularly my junior class. I mean, you got like 4.0s almost across the board. Now, granted, I do think that COVID has aided in that in some way, but it's also hurt them in the way that they work once they get to college. I think that could be something else, but I don't know. Like, have you seen it guys with higher grades recently, or like what's this been your?
I'll give you my two takes on it, right? Okay. You have the kids that, again, a strength of school. I don't know how it is for high school kids now compared to like what, obviously in Mass, like we got the schools kind of got ranked. Remember those lists that used to come out of like, this is the second best public school in Mass or whatever, right? I think the first part I'll put it is parents are shopping the school for kids more than the kid is shopping the school. So there are families that are like, you have to go to this guideline school. I want this acceptance rate. I want this population, whatever it may be. And then there's the other kids on the other side, right? I've had kids that had 4.3 GPAs out of 4 that just want to play college baseball. So I think back to our day again, I think if we went to any school and we could play college baseball, I think all three of us would have said, hell yeah, right? So we're in the world now of let's call it 50% and 50%. There's the 50% that are shopping the school, and then there's the 50% that are okay with the school and playing college baseball. Because again, and the portal is what it is, but if that's your only chance, let's say that school that you don't want to go to is your only chance, go there for a year, tear it up, and transfer. I'm never going to tell a kid that, but like if you want to go to, let's say you want to end up at an SCAC, right? And your only offer is Anna Maria. Go play at Anna Maria, go hit 350, put up numbers, and find a way to get into that school. Now, again, I don't know the NESCAC rules of how you can transfer and how that works, but if that's what you want to do and that's your only offer, go do something with it. Because I also think we're in the world of kids are okay. If the Anna Maria is my only option, I'm going to hang them up. And I'm just using that as an example. But kids are more prone to hanging them up now than giving it a chance. And again, it is way different than when we were getting recruited.
Wait, dude, Kevin and I had a kid when we first opened who told us if he's not playing Division I baseball, he doesn't want to play college ball.
Was he even in high school yet? Because I've heard that before.
He was a great player, and I think if he played D3 ball, he would have tore it up. But he just he decided not to do that, and that's okay. Like, listen, if you decide not to play college baseball, that's perfectly fine.
I'm just glad I helped you become the man that you are in that sense. And I think that's another thing that people don't see in it. It's like, dude, I don't care if you go to college and be a normal kid. Like I've had plenty of those. But I care how you treat everybody in that instance, right? Whether you're on the field, whether you're in the classroom, whether you're outside hanging out with your buddies. Like it's again, it goes back to that respect factor of like, this is how you treat kids and this is how you treat adults. This is how you treat your coaches. This is how you treat your teachers. And I think baseball essentially helps those kids do that. Good one here. How do you approach developing both physical and mental aspects of the game at Rip City?
Well, Al, you want to go?
Well, I think what we like to do is we like to test. We have a test retest model we do with our hitters. So we'll use hit tracks with video. Like first week in, we do mobility testing, and then we do some metric testing, and we track it all. You know, and it kind of sets the benchmark for the winter. It's like November 1st, right? It sets the benchmark for 5 months of training. All right, these are my numbers. This is what I'm training to beat. Now, as we know, it's not all about that, right? Like I've seen hitters hit the ball 92 miles an hour and they're such a better hitter come springtime, and they still hit the ball 92 miles an hour, but they can now hit a breaking ball and they can adjust and they're not falling over after every swing. That's a plus to me, right? But setting those benchmarks, you know, and then retesting, right? So you give them a program, you retest and show progress. I think it keeps kids really engaged. On the mental side of things, a lot of that, you know, unfortunately, we don't have an infield here. Like, we don't have the full infield. We just have the cages. And I feel like a lot of the mental stuff comes outside in practice. Obviously, in the cage, you can train a ton of different things on the mental side. The weight room teaches you a lot about discipline as a ball player. But like as far as the game goes, a lot of it really happens outside in those practices and in games. Just how to one, like your hitting approach, right? The way you approach like pitching. Man, the less I thought on the mound, the better. These kids think so much. I can't even like. I don't know if you have to deal with the same thing. Like I think kids think too much on the mound nowadays.
I don't even know if it's thinking. I think it's just the pressure is getting the kids more of like, I have to be good. Like, dude, it's okay to be bad. Like, that's the part of the game, right? There's the highs and the lows. But it's like, I think they're so caught on the high instead of the low anymore. Like, I think back to our days of like, I was 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, right? Like the lowest point you can be in baseball. But it's like, all right, you could go 1 for 3 with a homer and 2 hard hit balls the next day. Everything's fine. But it's like, I feel like kids can't get through that moment anymore of like the 0 for 4 with 4 Ks anymore.
Yeah, dealing with pressure is a big one. We go live, usually starts, so it's every Friday from like the last weekend in January until high school season starts. We go live in the cages. And that's when we learn a lot about our guys. Just bringing out the dog mentality, man. They get super competitive. It's a lot of trash talk. We get umpires in there. Like that's my favorite time of year, dude. Friday's awesome. It helps guys work through those mental battles that they're having with themselves. It's usually with themselves, 100%. And it helps them to just get into a compete mode instead of competing against themselves. I just had a conversation the other day with one of my better players, and it was about how he was competing against himself and his own coach as opposed to competing against the guy in the box. I mean, that's baseball, dude. Like, go compete. You're doing it for your teammates and for yourself, man. Don't worry about what your coach thinks or the people in the stands or the other. Like, doesn't matter. Like, we got to compete.
Yeah, so we definitely take pride in the test retest model, both on the turf and the weight room, and then just some things we do on the mental side. We've had yoga sessions once a week at our facility, kind of resetting your mind and your body. We do some breath work where we turn the lights off and we have guys laying down and really work on accessing your full lung capacity and visualizing what's the best barrel you've ever had in your life? What'd that feel like, right? And visualizing that while you're sitting there with no, extra noise, and talking to the guys about us driving to NEBC. It's about an hour and a half drive. You got a lot of time there to really put positive thoughts in your mind and try to get that onto the field. So like visualizing a fastball, visualizing barrel off the bat, visualize running hard, making the play, all that stuff. I think visualizing positive outcomes is huge for an athlete.
That is a big one. All right. Last question about development is, what advice do you give to players who might not be highly recruited but still want to play at the college level?
Keep grinding, man. Keep grinding. I truly think there's a spot for everyone. There really is. You just got to know where to look sometimes. And I think that's where Al's specialty really comes into play. Him playing Division III baseball, having those connections and seeing it, right? Because like I never played Division III ball, so it's hard for me to be like, hey, this is what it looks like. This is where he could fit, right? Al really can hammer that one.
Yeah, I mean, you can't throw 80 miles an hour and only have a curveball and a not so good changeup and be picky on where you want to go play. Simple. I think kids get too picky, and like you got to be really good if you want to be picky. That's for sure, man. You got to be really good. There are a lot of places that are basically the same. You know what I mean? Like if I went to, now we had a lot of success at UMass Boston when we were there, but like there's a lot of places like UMass Boston, man.
Take the whole Little East.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Just take that, but then you spread them out, right? And it's like, all right, there's one here, there's one here, there's one here, there's one here. Now throw the NESCAC in there. Now throw the GNAC. Now throw, like, in New England, there's so many D3 schools, right? And it's like, you look at Endicott, you look at Salve, you look at Eastern, you look at Wheaton, you look at UMass Boston, you look at Keene, who's on the rise with Blood now. But like, what's the difference of going to play there or going to play, let's say, at Pierce, like I did, right? All right, besides the division, right? What's the difference between playing in Keene and playing at Pierce? All right, you're playing D2 competition, one you're playing D3, right? You're both in the middle of nowhere. But like you got two great coaches there, right? You got Chambers at here and you got Blood over there at Keene. But Pierce is in going to the Super Regional right now, and Keene is going to, or they just won the Little East, right? I believe
Got
so.
knocked out of the regional, but
They got knocked out, right? But it's like you see the rise, and it's like, all right, well, does Keene have what I want? No, okay, they don't have the whatever major I'm looking for, but Pierce might. Okay, maybe you're a back end guy at Pierce. Okay, you're going to be in the same area, which is 30 minutes away in the middle of nowhere. Maybe that's a good fit for you. And I think the fit part, like you guys said too, is like that's the important part, right? You can't go to a school without putting baseball involved in this. All right, you can't take baseball out to go to the school. A lot of the times, and I hate to say it, but baseball helps all of these kids get into these schools. And I think that's the part that parents don't understand to the most. It's like you had no business going to that school, but baseball helps you get in there. Now the NESCACs and those and the IBs, you can't do anything about it. You need the.
I'll tell you what though, we've had some guys, man, like their grades were good enough for the IBs and NESCACs to do a little to get them in. They can only do a little bit for like a couple guys, but if you don't have the grades, forget about it. Doesn't matter. I mean, that person still had like a 98. We're out of 100 here, and then some guys have like 104s, whatever. But like he had like a 98, and Columbia's like, yeah, we can get him in. We're like, what? How the hell did that happen?
I think a big part of the process too that we forget about is like when we're kids, our goal, our dream, right? We all dream to play professional baseball, right? When you're in little league, that like, you look up to those guys, and I think as you get older, I think everyone hammers playing at Division I so hard is because you know that you're going to be surrounded by highly motivated guys with that goal. I think that's why so many guys chase that dream, is just to be surrounded by those people. Not saying you don't have those at the Division III level. You still have those guys, but I don't think there's as many of them that are still like hanging on to that dream of like playing professional baseball.
Well, I think in our eyes now too, it's like people are okay going to play D3 baseball. And there was nothing wrong with it when we played, but it's like I said it to one of the guys I grew up with that I had on the pod. But I'm like, I can name 10 kids that played at Worcester State that could have played Division II baseball, but they just didn't want to practice in the fall. Because again, when we played, it was different. D3 rules, you had 14 practices in the fall, and you couldn't do like a double day. Like there was so many rules. But now it's like, and I think eventually it's going to get to the point where D3 baseball is just the same as D2. You're going to have the same amount of I mean, they've been trying to work on it supposedly, but if you put that into D3 baseball, more kids are going to want to play D3 baseball because then you have a full year of baseball.
Yeah, I mean, you see it on D3 rosters right now, man. Like you've got D1 transfers, and some of them don't even play. Some of them don't even play on the D3 roster. They're a D1 transfer. They don't even play. Like we were fortunate. Our ace, my junior year, when we went to the College World Series, he was Mr. Baseball in Mass out of high school. He went to Virginia Tech, and then he went to Rollins College, and then he took a year off, and then he pitched for us. And by the end of the year, he was throwing 94 again. And it was unbelievable. He started the year off, he was throwing like 88, hadn't pitched in a year. I mean, it was like for people to come in and see that, like as a freshman coming in and being like, holy shit, there are some guys who absolutely throw heat at the D3 level. I played in 1 year, I think I played 4. Keene State had a 10th rounder. We played Stephen Ridings from Haverford. He was like an 8th rounder. I mean, it was like this is all like in succession. And these guys were like 97 miles an hour. I'm like, this is insane. Insane, dude. And I think you're gonna see more of that at the D3 level. More draft guys, more guys get signed. And that's
Well, the MIT kid that's throwing 97 is going to what, Tennessee now?
Yep. Did you ever play against
It's such a good way now. It's such a good way to get on the field now.
Which
Did you play against the kid that went to MIT when we were playing in college? He got drafted out of high school, decided to go to MIT.
is it the shortstop that played in the futures?
Yeah, Austin something, and then he got drafted like 5th round. He graduated.
Yeah, he had like 20. He had 20 homers or something at MIT his junior year.
He wanted to go to MIT to get the degree, and then he got drafted 5th round, and we had to play against him on a Wednesday, and like he would just hit the ball 115 miles an hour.
Dude, I remember playing him in the futures. I'm like, and again, nothing against MIT. Like he was like, I want to go. And clearly, he wanted to go to school there, but it's like that kid could have played D1 baseball on any roster at our time.
Player of the year in Arizona, played at MIT.
But look at, got an MIT degree, got drafted, had a really good college career. What more could you ask for? And clearly, that was his plan. Nobody was telling him in his back pocket, you got to do this.
That's a good story.
Next question is, how do you think the transfer portal has changed the recruiting landscape for high school players?
It's the Wild West now, man. It's completely different. It's changed everything.
Shooting from the hip, boys. From the hip.
It's changed everything, man. I mean, instead of getting a 16, 17-year-old and trying to project them, you can go get someone hitting 350 in the portal.
But I think they're right though, and it goes back to what you said of there's a place for everybody. Okay. But I think nowadays, most of these coaches are honest with you and up front. I'm not taking high school guys, which honestly, it makes the process easier for a lot of these kids. So if I'm not taking a high school kid, or hey, in this class, I'm taking 2 right-handed pitchers out of high school because we need them for our 4-year guys, whatever it may be. I think now with that, it's honestly helped it navigate a little bit more for these people of like, you can see their prior classes coming in. Okay. UConn took in 6 transfers. What do you think they're going to do next year? Probably taking 6 transfers. Where Salve Regina, what did they take in? They took in, let's just say they took in no transfers. All right. Maybe that's a spot where I can go and I can go play. Right. And I think it goes back to what we said too of like D1, D2, D3. It's all good baseball, right? Especially in our area, D3 is probably one of the more prominent ones. And it's go play where you're going to play. But like, yes, if there's an opportunity for you to move up and you got to use the portal, use the portal. But again, it goes back to you have to get stats. Stats are the most important thing in college. You can call me and say, hey, can you help me find a school? Okay, well, you got 1 at bat. What am I going to do with that?
We're going back to your high school clips, buddy. You better buy
Right, like
summer ball.
Right. But again, right. And that's the other thing of, are you playing college summer ball? If you're not, how can I help you?
Portal's crazy. I'm so curious what direction they end up going. It's still new, you know? I'm so curious what they end up doing with it.
Well, I mean,
It has its pros and cons just like anything else.
yeah, there was like we saw like we have a close relationship with Thomas Hughes at Kansas State, and they went from
Tommy.
they went from recruiting like 15 guys to their 2025 class at 4 dudes. And he's like, I'm going to take like 4 guys per high school class. And if you look at their starting lineup right now, 6 out of the 9 guys are transfers and one of them was from years before, David Bishop. He's a captain, but the other 4 or 5, they're just in this year and they're making a regional. Like, so why?
But you're talking about the Big 12, like the Power 4, Power 5 conferences. It is what it is. But again, like I've said to parents and other coaches, that's how it's always been. They got the transfers they wanted. They got the high school recruits they wanted. They got whoever they want. It's never going to change. Now it's a battle of the NIL money, which is whatever. That's a whole yeah, I don't either. But it's like, that's what it is. It's like, take those schools out of it, right? They're going to get whoever they want whenever they want. Okay. That makes that baseball that much better. But it also gives a kid at a mid-major level, like, hey, I want to get there. Go throw a mid-major and shove. And all right, we'll find a way to get you there because they're going to take you if you shove. And clearly they have, even if you're at the D3. I mean, I look at the team that my brother played with when he was at Eastern. They won the national championship. 6 of those kids in the next 2 years went to Division I schools.
One were UConn. No.
2 went to UConn, third baseman, catcher. Billy, the pitcher, went to Southern Missouri or Southern Mississippi. Oh, I don't know, one of those schools. 2 kids went to Marist, and then 1 kid went somewhere else. But it's like, all right, you just won a national title at D3, and now you're playing D1 baseball a year or 2 later.
Curious how many of those guys got meaningful innings and at bats the following year. Because I saw a kid transfer out of, I'm not going to name schools, transferred out of a D3 this past year, played Division I baseball, got 7 innings on the mound. The year before, he was an all-region guy. No,
So the two Marist kids start. He was a shortstop at Eastern. I don't know what he plays there. And then I won't name the name, but the outfielder plays the outfield. He was the highest hitter on the team. The pitcher I think he was either the Friday or Saturday guy at whatever, Alabama, Missouri, wherever he went, and got either drafted or picked up. The two UConn kids was their starting third baseman. And then the catcher was their second catcher, so he flipped every doubleheader.
So they get meaningful playing time.
But they got the places where they could play, right? And it's like that's the whole point of, I think, the transfer portal and where it needs to move. It's like, all right, you can go play D1 baseball. Well, go play where you're going to play. Don't just go to a school because you're moving up.
One of my favorite.
Like you going there. Go ahead.
Caleb Spurt at UConn now. He's their center fielder. He played for us when Kevin and I were coaching the Suns. He was at Endicott and got to go to the College World Series, and then he's played the last 2 years at UConn. I think he just broke the stolen base record for UConn in a season. But just like he knew he was going to play at UConn, and he took that opportunity, and now he's balling out and probably looking forward towards the draft. You know, he had a 7-hit game two weeks ago. I don't know if I've ever even heard of that at that level, but it's just good to see, right? I mean, like, but he knew he was going back to it. He knew he was going to get meaningful playing time at UConn. He knew it. There was no question.
Everyone's trying to climb the ladder, man.
Yeah, dude. That's what it all comes back to. We're climbing that.
All right. I got a few more questions for you guys. So, do you have any success stories that stand out, players who really maximize the process?
A few come to mind.
Hey, are you, Kev?
I think you're running with it, man. You're killing it.
Well, he just hit 2 homers yesterday for Columbia in the Ivy League championship, Anton Lavitz. He was one of our first guys in when we opened, and we just knew right away how serious he was about his grades, about his work. He went in, posted something on Facebook the other day about he was struggling to put weight on. And so we came up with the peanut butter jelly diet for him, and he would eat 3 PB&Js every day in between his meals, and he would make them at 5:30 in the morning every single day. And then he would go lift, he'd go to school, get perfect grades, come to Rip, and be there for like 4 hours and just train baseball constantly. He would miss high school basketball games as a fan. He was a great basketball player. He quit. Doesn't have anything to do with it. But like he was so serious about the process. Every little detail, every detail from his mobility to his dynamic, to his warm up before he hit, to his tee work. Every single detail. When you're that detail oriented, you have no choice but to be a great baseball player. And he's been doing that for as long as you can imagine. And he was all conference second team like 3 years in a row at Columbia, and now he's going to another regional as a senior, man. And he really set the standard for what it meant to be a Rip City athlete, and he knows that. I hope he watches this one because we're proud of him, and hopefully he makes some noise in the regional. But I mean, it was so detail oriented.
Quick little story on Anton. He definitely stands out. Gal said it, he set the standard, and everyone at Rip City looks up to him. But a little story: he would hit him and 3 of his friends they'd hit in the last session of the night because no one was after them to bump him out of the cage, so they knew they'd get some more time. And so they chose that time slot, and it's 4 of them. Anton's one of them. They're hitting probably hour and a half, and then the guys start trickling out. So it's 9:30 at night, and it's just Anton in there left, and I'm gassed, dude. I'm throwing like simulated live BP to him, so like I'm hanging. I'm like, all right, dude, like we'll leave when I get you out, And then we ended up staying till I think 10:30 at night. I couldn't get him out for an hour. It was just hit after hit, dude. It was crazy. Like he was just so locked in, man, and like Al said, every aspect of his time there, he was just doing the right thing and saying the right thing, and very, very thankful that we had him in our program. He changed it.
I mean, I think there too, it gives you like a different perspective too. And it's like, he could have been one of your first ones, right? And it's like, how does that make everyone in your facility better around you? Because I'm sure he comes and trains when he's home or whatever it may be, right? But it's like his process and his story makes it that much easier for not to promote, but like to show parents of like the true like what it takes to get to where he is. And it's not like he's at a joke school, and no, there's no joke schools, but like he's at Columbia. Like you're talking the cream of the crop of schools, and then adding baseball on top of it.
Takes a special person, and he's definitely one of them.
The biggest battle is telling a parent that their kid needs to work harder and do all the things like Anton did, right? But then some parents are okay. They're like, I know he's not going to do all that, or I know that's not going to happen. Then don't expect the same results. That's all it is. As long as we can both agree on that, then all right. If he's not willing to do every little thing that he needs to do, then don't be surprised when the results aren't what you want. Very simple.
There's so many guys that come to my head about like how they looked when they first came in, and now it'd be so hard to rattle them all off. But dude, super thankful for all the guys in our program, man. They really work hard and represent the program well.
I mean, it just goes back to you buying into the culture, though.
Yeah,
Like, and it's like you two played in two different programs, right? But now you're merging both your views into one culture and trying to put it under the same roof. Clearly, it's helped you guys, but it's like there'll be people that won't buy into that, but that's okay. Like everyone isn't supposed to buy into everybody's culture, but it's like at least the people that are buying in are getting out of it what they need to get out of it. I think that's the biggest part. Is like every program isn't for everybody, but it's like once you find one, you can kind of run with it.
one of my favorite aspects of RIP isn't just the baseball side, but the social side. Getting these guys that walk in the building that are like socially awkward, and like 3 months later, dude, like you're like, what happened to this kid? Completely shit, like confident, has formed a friend group there. I think that's the best. Like that's one of the best things that Rip City offers.
Well, dude, it's easy when you get jacked. When you get jacked, you get all this confidence. You get absolutely shredded. All of a sudden, you got all this confidence, man. Like that's what it is, though. Like, dude, when you're a better baseball player and you're getting swole, I mean, come on, man. How can you not be confident? You should be confident. That's the goal, man.
Next question is, what's next for your facility in terms of helping players in the college path?
I would say just really clarifying everything. Like, obviously, we're navigating a new landscape of transfer portal, some guys maybe NIL. I mean, it's on the horizon. I mean, you've seen a couple of them. Helping them to navigate the process easier. Like the process has changed so much that we had kids getting phone calls in 8th grade from Duke, and we were like, that doesn't happen anymore. They can't call you till August 1st of your sophomore summer. So it's like the process just keeps changing, and I think for us, like we have to keep changing and just clarifying every little aspect of this process and I think like now that we've trained the same group of kids for 6 years since they were 11 and now they're 17U, we have seen what works and what doesn't. And for us to continue to get better as people who train baseball players, we have to keep getting better. It's not just about the players. Like we have to keep adapting. Like think about how much like all these new training, all the new training stuff that's come out, man. Like all the science, like it's crazy, and like you got to be able to educate yourself and to stay up to date on things, and like obviously with a filter, right? Like you can't take it all. You take it all at the face, and then you have to filter through everything. But I mean, yeah, we're just trying to improve in every aspect there. I mean, in Kev knows, like we're always, dude. I mean, and Zach, you too, man. You're probably on Instagram. You're like, oh, that's a pretty cool drill. Might try that one out at practice. I like that. Like that's a different way of looking at something that people have been doing for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
I think the key part there, though, is like, and again, I think this is a difference between good programs and bad programs, is looking at that drill and knowing how to do it. And I think that's where the good programs are like, all right, well, I've trained that way, or whatever it may be, one of my coaches is trained that way, and kind of explaining it to other coaches. I feel like in today's world, everyone wants to be like popular on socials, right? We'll call it. But I'm like, again, it goes back to when we were kids. Like, we weren't doing drills like this, and we weren't doing all those things. So why put your athletes in risk of that?
Yeah, definitely. As a coach, you gotta be able to provide the reason why you're doing something. I think every time we're doing something, there should be meaning to it because we have such short time frame with these guys every day, and it's like we got to maximize it and get the most out of it.
I saw a quote. The other day, and it was like, "You make your players do their homework. You should do your homework." And it's like, it makes so much sense because if you're not learning as a coach, they're not learning. And I think some people get happy with that like plateau of their career and they're coaching and they're moving on and they're doing whatever. But it's like the game's evolving, recruiting's evolving. It's never going to stop. It's just going to keep getting more and more challenging. So it's you got to put the effort in to help your kids.
Have to, and that comes down to the coaching staff and having people that are passionate about what they do.
Side of things, I think the biggest. I know we talked about like when we played versus now. I think the biggest difference that I've seen is that kids don't watch the game of baseball as much as we did growing up. I don't watch MLB games as much. I watch so much college baseball, my ears are gonna explode. Like I can't get enough of it, man. It's the best. And like I tell kids all the time, if you're gonna watch any baseball, go watch some mid-major Division One baseball this weekend. Go watch some SEC baseball. Go watch any Power Four baseball. Go watch a D3 baseball game. They're all online, and and you're going to learn so much about how these guys go about their work, how the game is played. Like that, you learn so much about the game. You can tell who watches baseball and who doesn't in your program. I bet. That's for sure.
Go watch an SEC game and go watch Endicott play Salve.
Yeah.
Because essentially that's the same for our area of D3, right? Yeah, an SEC might have a guy that's 95 to 99 and bring in a reliever that's 99 to 101. But like, you're gonna get guys at Endicott and Salve that are throwing low to mid nines, right? And then they're gonna bring in a relief guy that could be 87. But they're two competitive teams on the field. And it's like, know where you can play.
Jordan Gottesman transferred to Northeastern from Endicott, and he led them to a College World Series, and now he may lead Northeastern to a College World Series with the way they're playing the game. I mean, he's a weekend guy for them now. Maybe the same thing, and it just goes to show. I mean, Northeastern has the best ERA in the country by like 0.3 or 0.4, and a few of their guys are D3 guys from New England. So it's just I love seeing that. By the way, it's awesome. I love seeing the.
Well, I mean, essentially, as Kev said, it's climbing the ladder, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, this is where you can play now. This is where we want to get to. I mean, it's the same thing with high school and youth and travel and whatever you want to call it. But it's like, it's great to see those success stories. But it's like, look back to where they started, because that kid might not have been the best 12U. And does anyone care that about his 12U stats? No.
That Francis kid that we were talking about earlier didn't start playing until he was how old now?
10 years old. He started playing baseball.
And he's what, 14?
That's the craziest part of that story.
Crazy. He's
I
different.
mean, it's sickening, to be honest with you, how good. Yeah, no, I get it.
But doesn't he drive an hour to the facility as well? Or he lives in New York or something, right?
Yeah, he'll drive an hour here and then fly to Georgia to play with the Canes. Like, this dude just wants it, bro. That's all he wants.
He'll be the 3-hitter for Canes National this summer.
Talk about dedicating time towards a goal. Everything he does, for the most part, is dedicated towards playing
for yourself in 7th grade and not be dedicated to something. Let me put it that way.
But you can't teach that.
No,
we don't try.
Like that's what I tell parents. I'm like, that's the unteachables. That's the kid wanting to do it. That's what makes baseball players better players. The unteachables that you can't say, do this, do that. It's all right.
Kev's dogs get a little ring. We're good. You're right, though. I mean, it's there's a lot of things that you just like you can't teach kids, and it can be frustrating as a coach. You'd be like, if he had this just one more quality, like if he had that, he may really be able to go get this. Sometimes you just got to be like, he's not that guy, and it's okay. And that can be frustrating, obviously. But listen, we're human beings. These kids are human beings, and they're not perfect. And sometimes I feel like I'm like a guidance counselor, a therapist, and a coach all at the same time. And I guess that's what I am, you know?
But that's like the fun in it, because it's like getting us out of our comfort zone of like, all right, how can I help this kid? Because every kid needs help at some point, whether they tell you or they don't.
The most meaningful conversations I've had haven't been about baseball sometimes, you know,
They're about
in
life.
person.
All right, last two questions I got for you. If you give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Hit the weight room and eat more.
Telling yourself that today, I think you woke up and you had, you're right, Ken.
Definitely
They,
get more physical.
I would say instead of about 70 pounds ago, I was a cross country captain. Don't run cross country because it makes you slower. I would say, well, I mean, I would still go and lift after, but like I was probably the thickest cross country runner out there. But go play a sport that makes you faster. Like soccer would probably make me faster, or just go do sprint. Like, because I'm a competitor. I'm not the guy who's just gonna go out and do sprints just because every day. I need to like sprint in a competitive aspect, and don't try to back squat more than you can at a young age. Like learn how to goblet squat, front squat. Like I was just throwing weight on the bar, big chest, tight back, and just like crushing my spine from a young age. And that's not a safe way to do it either. So like just those little things. I probably would have asked for a trap bar for Christmas because they didn't have one at our local retro fitness. So like a trap bar would have been a good investment. And like I think the last one is like go throw hard more consistently. Like go let it eat. On days it feels good, go let it eat.
Build the arm strength.
Yeah. Like we could long toss for days, but it was like get off a mound and throw hard. I think that's what I needed to do more.
But you don't know that until you're done.
That's right.
That's like the thing people right. And it's like you're just preaching what you could have done better.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know what you could have done better until you sit back and you just take the game away for a year or 6 months or 3 months, whatever it is.
Yeah, and there's
It's like you learn so much from not playing.
I think some kids don't throw enough. Like obviously there's kids who throw too much, right? But there's also some kids who don't throw enough. They don't play enough catch. They don't throw with intent enough during the week. I've seen both sides of it, man. Some kids just don't throw enough either.
My last question is, where do you see Rip City in 5 years? Any big goals or expansions planned?
We're gonna have to
There's
make
a
it
lot
sign
up in the air right now.
gonna have to
There's a
sign
lot
something. No, I mean,
a lot up in the air.
it's we have a few things in mind. Some you can talk about, some you can't. I think something cool. Listen, and I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen a big shift from public school to online schooling, and there's kids who want to do that. If there was a world where Rip City could have teams and like be an actual academy and have online schooling, that'd be pretty cool, I think. And that could happen sooner than we think, but we don't.
I mean, I feel like that's happening more common now. It's like you see these like IMGs and stuff like that, where it's essentially becoming other places of the US too.
Like I promise you that Francis kid does not need to sit in a classroom for 6, 7 hours a day. He's a very intelligent kid who needs a STEM class. He needs some sort of science, one other, and then like an elective, and you get everything you need right there. And then you can train more. You can focus on other things in your life if you have different passions. 7 hours of school a day is an old thing, and I think it's going to be on its way out in the future. Personally,
Something I think that would be pretty cool. Now, you mentioned 5 years. I don't think that this timeline, I don't know what it would be, but there's a lot of money that would need to be involved in it. But it would be building a sport complex in Berkshire County. I think it'd be amazing us having the opportunity to travel to these other places. You get so many people going into a community, and I think it'd be so beneficial for Berkshire County. I would love to see that happen. A multi-sport complex in Berkshire County, get a bunch of people going to the county, boost up that economy. I think it'd be amazing.
Zach, do you book the tournaments for your teams? So for turf tournaments in the Northeast, if you don't get into those tournaments before like the new year, you're probably not getting in. Like Diamond Nation, probably not getting into those tournaments. NEBC, you're cooked.
You have to know people.
Yeah. So like again, those are all
You have to plan your summer season before Christmas.
oh yeah. And like that's why when we pick our rosters in late November, and then we're trying to get people committed before, that's why, so we can get into these good tournaments. And that's why having a complex in Berkshire County would be great. 'Cause one, it would guarantee Rip gets into it. We don't have to travel as much. Like living in Worcester and being close to NEBC and not having to book hotels for all these tournaments must be an absolute blessing. Absolute blessing with the way hotel costs are right now. And being able to like commute to Boston or whatever for a tournament. My 17U has 4 tournaments near the Boston area or NEBC, and we're gonna have to stay in a hotel for all those. Whereas like there's probably 70 teams out there that don't have to are just gonna commute to all their Boston Open games.
Well, yeah, think about Boston Open. We're going with our teams, but if you're within, I think it's 120 miles, you're marked as local. So
Yeah. Yeah, and you could play at
we could talk about tournaments forever.
Franklin Pierce and Bryant on different days in the same tournament.
Right. Well, I mean, think about it. There's what, 260-ish teams?
And there's other tourneys that weekend too, not just Boston Open. So no, you're right. We could talk about that forever. We won't bore them with that.
Kevin and Alex, I want to thank you guys for joining today's pod. I want to wish you and all the Rip City athletes the best of luck in the future.
Thanks for having us, Zach. That
Appreciate
was
you,
awesome.
man. Appreciate you. That was a lot of fun.
No problem. Thanks for joining.